In late September 2025, a ship left China carrying $200 million of solar panels and batteries, heading the wrong way. Instead of turning south towards Suez like almost every ship before it, the Istanbul bridge turned north, straight into the Arctic Ocean. 20 days later, it docked at Felixstowe, Britain's largest container port, the first direct container link between China and the United Kingdom through the Arctic. It averaged almost 17 knots through waters that stay frozen most of the year, escorted through the worst stretches by icebreakers. Its operator calls the service the China-Europe Arctic Express. Scheduled sailings from Ningbo to Felixstowe. Through the Suez Canal, that same journey usually takes well over a month. The Arctic route promised to cut it nearly in half. Cutting the distance by more than a third means burning less fuel, paying no canal fees, and beating your competitor's delivery date. But here's the strange part. The world's biggest shipping companies had already promised, publicly, in writing, never to sail this route. Maersk, MSC, Hapag-Lloyd, Evergreen, together controlling thousands of ships, all signed pledges to keep out of the Arctic. So why is China betting on the one ocean everyone else swore off? The answer starts with a simple problem of geometry. Look at a normal flat map and the Arctic route makes no sense. Look at a globe from above and it's obvious. The shortest path between 2 points on a sphere is a great circle, and from China to Europe, that arc bends north. Sail from Murmansk in Russia to Yokohama in Japan through Suez and you cover about 12,800 nautical miles. Take the Northern Sea route along Russia's Arctic coast instead, and the same trip is roughly 5,800, less than half. Every mile saved is fuel not burned, wages not paid, and delivery dates beaten. In shipping, distance is the entire business model. The southern route has a second problem. It threads through some of the most crowded and vulnerable bottlenecks on the planet. The Strait of Malacca, the Red Sea, the Suez Canal itself. Close any one of them, and world trade convulses. In recent years, attacks on Red Sea shipping forced carriers to detour around all of Africa, adding weeks to every voyage. The Arctic route touches none of those choke points. No canal, no strait shared with rivals, no pirates, just ice. And that ice is the reason this shortcut stayed locked for all of human history, until the lock started melting. The Northern Sea route hugs Russia's Arctic coastline for thousands of miles, most of it frozen for most of the year. Ordinary navigation is only possible for 2 to 4 months in late summer when the ice briefly loosens its grip. But the Arctic is changing faster than almost anywhere on Earth. Summer sea ice keeps shrinking decade after decade. Scientists disagree on the date, but some projections put the first practically ice-free Arctic summer as early as 2027. Others say mid-century. Either way, the direction is one way. Every decade, the shortcut opens a little wider. Russia isn't waiting for the melt. It runs something no other nation on Earth possesses: a fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers. 8 of them, with names like Yamal, Arktika, and 50 Years of Victory, smash lanes through the ice. Last summer, those icebreakers worked the Eastern Arctic almost non-stop, keeping lanes open for the season's 103 transit. Moscow promotes the route as its answer to Suez, an Arctic corridor under Russian control from end to end. I sound to Mayamation, I was coffee moist. A shorter route, opening wider every year, backed by nuclear muscle. So why isn't every ship on Earth up there already? Because the shortcut comes with a long list of fine print, and the first item is the ice itself. Even in 2025, early freezing cut the season 3 weeks shorter than the year before. The window is narrow and unpredictable. Ships need reinforced ice-class hulls, specialized crews, and often an icebreaker escort, all of which costs serious money. Insurance in remote frozen waters is brutal. If a ship founders in the Arctic, the nearest help can be days away. And then there is the environmental case against Arctic shipping. The reason those giant carriers signed their pledge to stay away. The Ocean Conservancy pledge cites oil spill risk, engine emissions, collisions with whales, and invasive species carried in ballast water. CMA-CGM, the world's fourth largest carrier, promised that none of its 500 ships would ever take the Arctic shortcut. Critics answered that the pledges cost nothing. The giant's business is built around Suez anyway. Skeptics called it greenwashing. And the volumes tell the real story. The entire route moved about 400,000 tons of containers last year. Set against the traffic through Suez, that is a rounding error, and China knows it. So why keep pushing north? Because for Beijing, the Arctic Express was never just about shipping schedules. It is policy written on the water. In 2018, a Chinese government white paper laid out a vision it called the Polar Silk Road, Arctic trade lanes feeding Chinese ports. Voyages are scaling like a plan, not an experiment. 7 Arctic container transits in 2023, 11 the next year, 14 last season. Container tonnage jumped 2.6 times in a single year. New operators keep joining, new shipping, Sea Legend, Hijet. And China found a partner with nowhere else to turn. Sanctioned by the West, Russia needs Asian customers for its Arctic. Most of what moves on the route today is Russian energy, liquefied natural gas and oil, bound mostly for Asia. But the bigger dream is stumbling. Total cargo on the Northern Sea route actually fell for 2 straight years. 37 million tons moved last year against the 80 million Moscow once promised itself. The gap is enormous. Egypt has reason to watch nervously. One study projected that a warming Arctic could eventually siphon substantial traffic away from Suez. Trade routes are not built in a season, they are built in decades. So what happens when the decades run? The Chinese operators have already announced their 2026 plans, more Arctic sailings and more reliable schedule. Science gives the route room to grow. Projections for a first ice-free summer range from the 2030s to around 2070. Every year of warming stretches the season, tames the insurance premiums, and shaves the case for sailing the long way south. Researchers who modeled that future saw trade flows shifting between Asia and Europe, heavy Arctic traffic, and a substantial drop in Suez transits. If that happens, the map every logistics manager carries in their head gets redrawn for the first time in living memory. There is a dark symmetry in all of this, and it deserves to be said plainly before the story ends. The shortcut exists because the planet is heating. The ships using it burn the fuel that heats it further. China's Arctic Express is not just a trade route, it is climate change converted directly into a business model. The Istanbul Bridge made it to Felixstowe in 20 days. The question is not whether ships will follow, it is how many. And every ship that goes north skips the narrow waterways the whole world economy depends on. Those 5 choke points are the next story.